You know why I've been dreading this day for years? Because playing a FromSoftware game is like emulating a Nintendo game. A permanent need to stay vigilant afterwards, as everyone will be on my butthole the first opportunity they secure. With flashlights up it, it's just like Bill Cosby, but instead of slipping something into your drink, something is slipping into your stink. And the player base loves it.
You're gonna be another statistic like that white button, knock your ass out.
You ask the player base for an easier difficulty and they brazenly attack you like,
What the hell are you? No! No! No!
You might want to kill yourself.
Your life is nothing. You serve zero purpose. You should kill yourself now.
Asking FromSoftware players why they were perusing on Doms Anonymous is like asking Registeel where he was in the years 1933 to 1945.
I watched that.
Harder!
And they still surmise the need to make the game harder on themselves with challenges, as if it isn't more strenuous than bringing democracy to the Middle East.
You forgot the anal.
I'm exploring Limgrave today. A more appropriate term would be conquistadoring, considering what I enacted on what I perceive to be lesser beings, nothing less than genocide. The video is fairly short for my standards, so I'll probably end this series in 3 parts. Whatever the case may be, let's go smoke some crack through our resized rectums, courtesy of the Tree Sentinel, and play Elden Ring on crack. It's time to select our starting class, just like you should select to take on the monumental task of wielding the power about to be bestowed upon you after leaving a like and subscribing, while also, more importantly, not missing out on future content. With a bevy of options, I conclude my crackerdry powers need to be hampered. Standard procedure for super weapons, of course, selecting the Wretch. Body type A, because with bandages looser than the water slide Lana Rhodes' baby spawned in. 1 barrel roll and I'm going one-on-one with the Tree Sentinel, possessing a non-zero chance to hit him with the titty double kick, leaving him with a vivid detail of our encounter, perhaps to our detriment, as he'll be a dual wielding while the horse will have an extra attack pattern itself. With a limited supply of characters, I bestow my knowledge in some sort of goblin ebonics as my title, and for a starting item I secure the golden seed. Which reminds me, it is of paramount importance I interject here and inform everybody to start milking. No prostate is safe with the intro we're about to feast our corneas upon. To summarize, the fallen leaves snitched on their boys, assuredly after a KFC family bucket was brought in. No being can withstand the Colonel's special after all, and told on the shattering of the Elden Ring. Queen America truly shattered the patriarchy and decided she would leave to get the milk this time. 67 cents to the dollar, no more after that brave display. As the Assassin's Guild sent out a hit on Godwin the Golden, with the tenuous peace now broken as relationships crumbled, ops declared and wars fought, which is where ye tarnished arrive.
Oh, rise now, ye tarnished, ye dead who yet live. The call of long-lost grace speaks to us all. Horalu, chieftain of the Badlands, the ever-brilliant Gold Mask. Fear, the deathbed companion, the loathsome dung-eater, and Sir Gideon Othniel, the all-knowing.
And of course, it appears Grace possessed a little juice left over, minimal enough so as not to summon someone as heroic as
The loathsome dung-eater.
Instead of another torrential downpour that would ensue, it spends its remaining RP to buy a chroma, or in this case, enamored by the high-functioning ape off Wish. Somehow in the starting area, people died, no doubt someone blessed with skills to the caliber of Quantum TV, I'm assured.
You guys really sound like abuse victims, right?
I mutilate a corpse before escaping with my piece of wood, whilst my other piece concurrently feeling the cool breeze of being hundreds of miles above sea level. I arrive to my first enemy, a biblically accurate depiction of an angel, but something in that moment strikes me. It's before the age of the internet. This world is stuck in the medieval era, meaning no subscribe button is in sight. With no option to effectively drop the game's difficulty to video game journalists, I attempt to salvage the situation, but with the complete lack of power, my strategy completely collapses in on itself, with my attacks effectively rendered impotent as the grafted Scion composed of the thing that swallowed up Bikini Bottom. In that one episode, Pumpkin carves through my butthole, leaving me both disemboweled and defeated. My disfigured corpse is thrown into his necrophiliac dungeon. Oh god. He even put panties on me. Each of its 50 hands doubling as defilers. It's obvious on a scale from 0 to 100, every one of his limbs left my rectum on page 233 of Pornhub.com level, leaving me to waddle like a penguin. That is, if I still possess the abdominal muscles required to stand up, with no hope I'll ever return to pre-BBC size. Okay, now, the Avengers couldn't get that out of me. Heck, not even Batman could Guantanamo his way to that information. I'd let 5 sweaty, muscular men run a train on me, then divest this information on Twitter, no less. I'm left to wither away in a serene stupor with a permanent fecal incontinence, the only thing gained, looking like a flashbang victim. A woman takes pity on my decrepit post-molest oral state and proclaims I can search for the Elden Ring, even if it violates the wishes of the Golden Order. A second violation and we haven't even started this game yet. This isn't looking good. I wake up with a bottle of lean and 3 bottles of liquefied Percocets to ease the pain when the world undoubtedly makes me want to jump off the world's end IRL. I learn about sites of grace and relieve my anger on some fascinating creatures who possess less lateral mobility than a retarded ostrich and the mental processing power of the Titanic submersible owner while employing the strategy of bash so hard. Citric acid builds up in his left arm, forcing him to lower his guard. Hoping against hope that raid tests are included as a drop item, but to no avail, arriving at my first boss. A soldier. Well, this should be... Well, it seems my abdominal viscera, the Scion carved out, were of vital importance to dodging as the tenacious soldier rarely let up, almost sending me to a Juice WRLD concert, but my textbook form was able to power through, felling my great nemesis in a battle that would make Millennials look like a Civil War reenactment. By 50 people at the age where benign prosthetic hypertrophy is set to take in, who use said event as their yearly 60 seconds of exercise. I escape the dungeon, securing a mutilator, saving me from having to gnaw through rotting corpses to continue my questionable finger collecting hobby, escaping to Limgrave. I locate a Payday 2 character if they were robbing the Bank of Medieval England before the Vikings could get their hands on it. That'll be a pretty good game, I'm not gonna lie. But he gives the reality check of the fact I'm not a TCLR subscriber.
Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless.
Alright. I get bitches. He informs me I have to traverse the castle and take out Godric the Grafted as my first test, but considering my current virginity of any maidens, I'd have a stronger chance getting it up for the Elephant Man.
You should kill yourself now.
Just as I'm about to thrust myself onto oncoming traffic, I finally come to my senses, realizing that despite my many numerous disadvantages, a rush of confidence befalls my decrepit state. Who cares about weapons, strategy, magic? God damn it, I'm still him. I've always been him. You want me to take the Elden Ring? I'll craft the greatest Elden Ring ever known if it costs me my life. Tree Sentinel? Has the Green Party organized regular patrols now? Me and my schizophrenia get cooking as the voices haven't steered me wrong yet. Going incognito until I secure the backside of his horse. Hey fucker! I may be the one wearing panties, but I'm about to molest you as my coping mechanism. Blindly charging into the 700-pound assault weapon with the tree bark fetish. Needless to say, I skillfully dodge, hit, dodge the spear strike, slide attack, playing this fight expertly. If Elden Ring is about getting good, then I'm Patrick Mahomes in a Pee-wee league, somehow obliterating the ceremonious tree-planting volunteer. He parted my cheeks like Moses did the Red Sea. I try once more, but like the Titanic coming back to snatch more bodies circa Jordan 96-97, it ends the same way. Well, the guy isn't even that strong as I bravely flee in the opposite direction from this lesser being informed of an even greater threat, and our intel proved correct. Instead, setting my sights on the much more sinister threat of the bowling goat. My god, look at them, rolling around eroding our lawn. If I don't take care of them, they'll terraform this grass, leading to a geostorm of biological destruction. No fiend will get one over on the Homeowners Association. Back ye, menace. After successfully felling my great great nemesis, second to only the Godric soldier, with remarkable precision I arrive at a church to confess my sins, realizing that I am in fact Muslim halfway through, and instead rob from the property before conversing with a gremlin fishing for fireflies or something, learning he's nomadic with some sort of donkey camel to carry his goods. He gaslights me into buying a crafting kit after a glowing review, deducing I'll leave the thinking to the perceived expert in this regard. After eliminating some animals to build confidence, I find my arch nemesis and creep on his block, letting him know Crack Gang runs these streets now, as with a face like that. My god, only the vile heroin abusers could possess a face worse than a SpongeBob still shot. Before using Naruto hand signs to represent my gang on his dead corpse, as any gangster worth his chains would, I continue the drive-by since it appears these beings are humanoid without any vocal cords nor a big enough processing center in their brains to gang up on me, securing some gauntlets. Excellent. My fisting caliber is increased tenfold, using said power to violate another soldier. I eventually find a cave, tantalizing the Animal Abuse Society with my contributions, and run into another wait a minute. Smell. Snarling beast. Minimal brain cells. Skid Row crackhead of a 12-year-old's GTA character. Goodness, I seem to have stumbled into the den of a Reddit moderator. Knowing my nemesis and their weaknesses all too well, I quickly ask how Steve's ballsack tastes, triggering a manic PTSD episode as he looks for the banhammer, giving me ample time to rub my tree log into some grass before hitting him with it, as the add-on proves itself super effective in eliminating the scourge of society. I was able to secure some armor to quickly cover my shriveled up 1-inch Punisher, the only effective remedy until I can find an internet signal. I find the Ops' home base and decide to drive-by is too loud, opting to instead sneak in and demonstrate why Quantum TV is not indicative of the average human population, securing a common device used by dominatrixes. FromSoftware really knows their player base, but I decide to give them a fair chance before appearing before their leader. One who proved himself a worthy adversary, but with his limited brain power, I hit him with the peekaboo steal through a fool's special, securing a map before sending the man to hell. I go downstairs to see what secrets the garrison that looked like they were under a continuous strenuous siege over the last 10 years were protecting, finding a wet knife and a mid-skill. Deciding to take the opportunity to quickly masturbate, jerking my 1-inch chode under the protection of shrubs, thankfully out of the presence of any beautiful woman. It's just a little cold. I'm a grower, not a shower.
I offer you an accord.
Alright, listen here, Itachi. You can't have my left eyeball. I require that now more than ever.
Have you heard of the Finger Maidens?
Well, I sure hope so. My microcock definitely isn't gonna get the job done.
They serve the 2 fingers.
2 fingers. Daring today, are we?
But you, I am afraid, are maidenless.
I guess my excuses for the compromising position she found me in failed to convince her.
I can play the role of maiden.
Oh?
Sing we now, sing for the year, sing for the land.
Well, it seems my conversation of fingers had her hyped up. Needless to say, she is about to be very disappointed. Charitably, she says she can use our copulatory techniques to turn ruins I find into strength, as I'm made privy to the fact that TCLR subscribers still exist in this world, but they require a collection of different ruins instead of a singular button press. Well, goddamn, that is great news. Perhaps we can jelk this microchode into form after all. After giving me the reindeer from earlier, I conclude my sorry state has left her feeling pathetic for me as I start aggressively fingering her, increasing my vigor in the process. That's right, even expressing the desire to become a TCLR subscriber is enough to cause Niagara Falls to play second fiddle to anybody, no matter what you're backing, nor SpongeBob Still Shot you emulate. By leaving a like and subscribing, you too can beat a hardcore Elden Ring Nuzlocke, no summons first try with ease, while increasing your life expectancy by 10 whole minutes after emulating a Nintendo game with mods, while also, more importantly, not missing out on future content. After proving my mastery with the Index Digitorum, or lack thereof, I ride my newly acquired reindeer and scour the world for some ruins I can swipe. I discover some sort of gremlin cursed into a tree, thinking he's some ancient magician, beating him until he shows his true form to be quite puny. Ratatouille regales me on the tale of how his clan members kicked him out of the the group orgy and turned him into a tree as he thanks me by gifting me the legendary mushroom, a potent weapon, sure to help me on my quest to growing my copulatory organ another 6 inches. Ratatouille here says he'll go to the shoreside cave to cook me up something special, so I leave him to it, finding a worthy opponent, a black rider with a health bar larger than a Twitch girl's if it represented how many bands they could sustain before a permanent one. This task proves futile as getting it down to a quarter proved the limits of my capabilities, finding out he only takes the night shift while a dude named Willie handles the bridge for the rest, quickly escaping before I have the dishonor of potentially losing to someone who possesses such a name. After another few attempts of role-playing as the Night Cavalry's Adam and Eve purchase, I uncover a cheat, using up all my potions while he's at a third, strategically repositioning myself to the reserve by running in the opposite direction to kill a beetle, securing even more Percocets and returning to the Night Cavalry thinking itself victorious, but unbeknownst to him, with my extra perk 30s I roll around the block again, somehow finding an unpatched exploit. I have the cake, eat it too, and fuck the baker. Avenging the last 30 minutes, I obliterate the cavalry, getting an Ash of War I don't plan on ever using, truly 30 minutes of time well spent. After assaulting a caravan led by 2 giants who may seem strong at first, but with worse knees than Derrick Rose, I prove their kryptonite afterwards, arriving to a flower garden with a cave defended by the Headless Horseman trying on a new look. It seems he was protecting a witch who was able to partially override a death stare from Medusa and offers to take me on as her student. I'd honestly rather be raised by EDP who managed to secure the backing of Blizzard as my adoptive father. I feel my 5th limb throbbing to a respectable level, still small no doubt, but large enough to run the fate of an army of special ed kids. I eventually run into a shack, stealing an art painting for future profits, as art has routinely surpassed the price of the S&P 500 over the last decade. That's right, this video is sponsored by Master... I'm just kidding. Although if they did sponsor me, that would be a banger transition. I spend the next little while securing some vision on the map before finding a rich man in robes who begs me to help take back his castle, but my radiating of small wee-wee energy has him hesitant, no doubt struggling to convey on how my lethal lack of urban will render me unconscious before I can even arrive to the night, but what the hell, he needs all the help he can get. Kenneth here is supposed to be the next ruler of Limgrave, but he got sunned by Godric's top general as I take on this gargantuan task, running through an army of sentient Reddit moderators and another giant before arriving at another church, securing a cup I can use to fill with the tears of the mods I've been roasting this video. And for good reason too, acting like they were standing up for a change against the vile Reddit API CEO, launching a blackout protest with an end time. Well, no matter, that simple miscalculation assuredly wasn't enough to stop the revolution, which I'm sure was effective. Let's check in on how the CEO and admins are taking this. Well, seems like he wasn't too worried, and for good reason. 2 days later, when the protests decided to keep going, a simple threat of removing their power status quickly dispelled the protest. But after a rant on how the mods were bitch-slapped back into line, I bitch-slapped my 3-incher while praising America's legs. Good lord. No wonder the world went to shit after she disappeared. Beforehand, everyone was willing to fight and die for a common cause, being those thighs. So strong it kept the whole world together. After securing the flask, allowing me to concoct my own mixture of Sprite and cough syrup, so dangerous it'll give the McDonald's lean a run for its money, and after defiling the statue, I quickly drive by on Mr. Krabs, hoping he'll piss quarters with every hit like a stripper pinata. But unfortunately, he left it all back in the Krusty Krab under SpongeBob's watchful protection. After another case of animal abuse, I discover Judaism is a thing in this world as I light the Hanukkah lights, and out comes a zombie from a primordial realm, following the spell to some ruins where I try sneaking by Kingers. A werewolf bear type creature that looks like he joined the companions in Skyrim fascinates me with his howling into the distance and some sort of tribal mating practice, and try as I might to make my way up to him, it's to no avail as he's too fortified in an excellent defensive position. Outside the forest, I find Danny Phantom lamenting at Kenneth's absence and how the knight who overtook his castle must go by she-her pronouns as the evident menorrhea would suggest. I mix my wondrous flask, giving me another health pot and Dragon Ball power-up, making my Kamehameha and inflict painstaking damage, quickly storming the fort, dodging crossbows as I assault the impregnable fortress. Weird reindeer.
I'll impregnate the bitch.
The pumpkin boss head from earlier shows up, but I use him as a replacement for Adam and Eve since no internet, slashing my way up the ramparts, a giant middle finger to this little gremlin hiding behind the ballista, giving him the Batista bomb before finding the Knight Kenneth. And Danny Phantom were waffling on about. I try reasoning with it, but it seems to be in a painful bout of menstruation, so much so that its special ability launches its excess vaginal waste in what I can only assume to be an attempted biochemical attack, since it does a lot of damage just by launching some blood in my general direction, which I quickly conclude must have HIV with how much it does, being as malicious and dangerous as a Magic Johnson bareback attack. But its accuracy seems to be blinded as I am able to emerge victorious, getting the HIV attack for myself. I get a medallion which will prove useful in later videos, making my way to Kenneth, who rewards me by, wow, I always wanted to properly chop vegetables. Well, this is great. He asks if I want to become his bottom bitch, which I humbly decline as my bowels still haven't completely regenerated from the Scion's assault from earlier. I teleport back to the first church to get the ability to summon Wereburb. Mummy?
A pleasure to meet thee, Tarnished.
Your pleasure will lead to my panties being tarnished, no doubt.
I'd heard tell of a Tarnished hurtling about atop a spectral steed.
I'd like to hear tell of a witch hurtling atop me as a spectral steed, unleashing my not-so-golden seed.
Thou art possessed of the power, no?
Thou art possessed of an enlarging spell, to be more precise. She gives me a bell to summon the 101 Dalmatians as she disappears, and I can continue my original goal of asking about the werebear as he bestows upon me the proper return signal for the bear's tribal mating attempt, as it appears he has a disrespectful customer fetish, giving me a move that'll have him come down from his fortifications in no time. My journey on becoming a true TCLR subscriber is progressing well, with all my stats leveling up, as does my skill after continuously fingering Melina for quite a while at this point. Speaking of which, she insinuates between the lines that I should be really going up to Castle Stormville at this point and taking a piece of the Elden ring, launching myself into the tournament, and after giving bloody slash to my sword, I decide to do just that, after dealing with Greta Thunberg's finest in an attempt at revenge. I sick the Huskies after him, quickly dispelling any respect the Dark Souls community had over me in an instant, playing it nice and safe, wondering why my bloody slash is less effective than a tampon trying to plug a dam breach. But after just the second attempt, I finally secure my life's goal as I slay him, which, considering I spent 83 attempts my first ever playthrough, since I didn't think you could skip him at first, was easier than usual, as I secure his weapon, but being far beyond my current wielding capabilities. Next up is Stormfoot Catacombs, where these little trolls of 4chan are dangerous, not only with their heat, but their rhetoric as they keep talking about Andrew Tate and Based, and how girls always go for the bad boys, as well as some other red pill rhetoric. But this isn't my first rodeo as I march into the mines of Mordor concocting a brilliant stratagem, quickly disposing of them before I lose the chance to ever get a girlfriend again. After dodging a fire trap, bruh, you ain't slick. I make use of a lever after fighting off the 4chan hordes, getting to a door that was blocked before, but the miasma has me fearing I might have to go one-on-one against Melania, so I take a brief respite as Melina returns, seemingly affirming my belief in the abilities of my fingers, improving substantially in my short time in this land, but she feels guilty since she's getting value in this relationship. She can't exactly reciprocate appropriately, getting to the Alright, well, we seem to have been exploring a pyramid this entire time as King Tutankhamun attempts to run my fade for disturbing his slumber. But as Beastmaster from Borderlands 3, or as Dark Souls players like to call me pussy-ass bitch, I slay the cat first try, getting retarded zombie that can use basic magic as my reward. I drive down to the shore, perhaps to find where Ratatouille fled off to, as I'm forced to chase this mythical ghost who stepped all over and around cocaine, but to no avail, seeing another merchant, quickly making my way and almost realizing too late. Hey, wait a minute. I see Madagascar off in the distance, and considering my conquistadoring knows no bounds, I attempt to make my way there and slaughter the indigenous population, but I'm fairly certain I can't swim, especially with the messages saying, you'll be fine. A surefire way to determine that no, you will not in fact be fine. I find another seller less friendly than the first, which makes sense since he was forced to set up shop in a suboptimal location, unlike the one from before who has first dibs on all tarnish, seeing as how he's set up on the main path. I locate a gush of air riding into... Holy shit, what the hell are you doing carrying me around at lightning speed? Luca needs your help to carry the Mavericks. Get your ass to Dallas. I get to a giant orgy gangbang all around between the hoods and crypts as I engage to fight for my affiliated gang, the Crackers, finally getting a helmet. Took me long enough. I travel under a bridge, locating a troll, but instead of a Reddit user, I instead find a samurai who looks like he bought a bowl. Didn't realize it had holes everywhere, making it impractical, but with sunk costs gnawing into the back of his mind, he gaslit himself into thinking, this is a solid choice for headwear. He implores me to turn back around because there's a fearsome dragon which I take heed of, as I'm nowhere near strong enough to resist being skinned and turned into its blunt, so I make my way to the opposite shore, where the Night King is waiting after getting faded in his universe, but with power levels matching final boss when you unlock him as a playable character levels, I quickly depose of him before finding a cave that circles back to the starting area where you can get the talisman you undoubtedly saw and spend 20 minutes trying to figure out how to get the first time. I spend the next 20 minutes getting out of there and making my way to some sort of cult circle as I begin chanting group suicide songs, entering the spirit realm only to find a bloodhound with so much mobility and jerking movements that his place as one of the hardest enemies I faced up to this point is firmly secured. He continues attempt after attempt, sacrilegiously putting 2 fingers on one side, 2 on the other, and prying fast, furiously, and efficiently, spilling my remaining bowels before using said empty hole as his pencil holder for the 2 swords he wields until I'm finally able to lock down his patterns and make the 3rd time the charm, getting his pencils as a prize. But considering I'm so weak, they're still best used in my pencil holder till I get better. Also, you can use the werebear guy to help you fight him, but I didn't realize... because I didn't realize... There's a small island to the south of Limgrave which I deem worthy enough for my perusal, crossing the well-fortified bridge using mental powers that the enemies lack. I find a blind girl, Irina, from Castle Morn to the south, who was just able to escape the communist revolution as the proletariat rose up and claimed communism would for sure work this time, but her father is a commander there, and refused to leave as the servants have deemed everybody implicit in bourgeoisiness and an op, killing her retinue, leaving her to fear it's the same in the castle. But despite that, her father still refuses to leave his post and yield to the commie scum, deducing a random stranger who gives him a letter imploring him to be a pussy-ass bitch and leave his post will succeed instead. I make the brilliant tactical decision to leave a blind girl all alone and defenseless in the middle of a civil war, almost as ingenious as walking into Tel Aviv and hitting the Registeel during rush hour. Knowing there's a man worthy of the moniker TCLR subscriber, I deem it imperative to deliver this message and meet the man in the flesh, after getting the werebear's attention, of course. It doesn't seem to work, but then I remember, I'm playing Elden Ring, and that means he's a masochist, as I snap my fingers and call waiter as disrespectfully as possible, forcing him to come down and take my order. He says if Kale says I'm good enough, then I'm good enough, and tells me to run a dude named Darrywell's Fade, which I set out to do, still not realizing... I deem it imperative that before storming the communists, I familiarize myself with the architecture of forts in this culture, going back and speaking to Kenneth, who says his LARPing isn't going to be enough to save the sorry state of his fort, and looks to set out for a true ruler who will bring Limgrave back from the depths, meaning I cannot take his offer of being his bottom bitch anymore. I storm the south, realizing that bows are about as effective as an excavated, expired condom from 2,000 years prior, so I run in 3-inch willy open carried and get into the thick of things as I find the first of many commies I thankfully get to eliminate. After securing wares from a merchant who decides to help me as his entire business is at stake since communists aren't exactly known for their fondness of the petite bourgeoisie class, I equip some sick armor and go one-on-one with the Knight Cavalry again, quickly obliterating him in one try and taking his weapon as my spoil. Ah, golden seed. Bow and arrows might suck, but these things that give me more health parts are good. What? I juke my way, arriving to the friendly giant after surviving a week in Auschwitz, which understandably left some emotional damage there that turned him not so friendly, and after throwing soap at him so quickly he fails to grab hold of it, leaving him forced to bend over, I secure victory. And now it's time to fight a damn death bird. That damn bird. It took me hours one time even getting him to minuscule amounts of health. Stepping on a rusty nail was probably all it would have taken to finish this affront to all things moral. But this degenerate evolution of a chicken with brain damage took me out. The rotting carcass I couldn't stop. And like Zuko, I needed to restore my honor, but instead of the Avatar, I have to take out a bird who, if you get caught in its beaks, it's Jover. Eventually, after 3 days of recording amounting to just about an hour and 45 minutes, since the rage quit was strong in this section of the video, I get him down to a sliver, and one anti-air menstrual assault is enough to restore my honor. I take his weapon, and despite how I can't wield it properly, I do just that to let his corpse know who runs these streets, taking his feathers, roll it up to a blunt, and smoke the pack. I see this glowing beetle and do the only appropriate thing one would perform in this situation and beat it until it shoots something out like a piñata, but unfortunately all it had was a Reddit mod's breath. Something bountifully found in the swamp, which with the color and smell I quickly deduce it's where the 5 mods who run all of Reddit come to congregate, quickly escaping before I fall deep into their nefarious clutches and apply for a mod job myself. Duggo! I enter the castle and begin to fulfill my promise to Irina. At the top, they're performing some sort of gang initiation on top of the pile of mangled corpses they've collected, so I pick them off one by one till I realize they ain't shit, and make my way through to the castle where the remaining soldiers are trying their best not to be butchered by Stalin's finest. I ensure that my centrist position is well known as I equally disembowel the lot of them, political ideology aside. When it comes to homicide, I don't care if you're straight, gay, trans, communist, laissez-faire, anarchist, you will die equally at the hands of my blade. I find out some of them have wings, taken aback at this genetic evolution, but their advantage is still no match for my superior economic and mouse and keyboard advantage, PC gang supremacy. I jump down through a cage, finding the ghost of a nobleman who claims if the commies eat him, he'll forever roam the hunting grounds of Karl Marx's communist utopia, and he desperately wants to avoid the fate of starvation befalling him. But who's gonna tell him? Along the ramparts, there's some sentient smegma that takes enormous effort to eliminate, so I ignore them and get to a dual-wielding member of the Grand Soviet being a lot stronger than your regular commies. Seeing some sort of boss door in the distance, my time with this game has taught me well the teachings of masochism, so I jump across, down a building into a pile of rats. Now, like in most games, these low-level enemies are best described as appropriate toothpicks for when you lack a suitable substitute, but they're still rats, and just like in most games where they're low-level enemies, I'm still left struggling to keep my anal sphincter clenched in pure terror. Also, speaking of masochism, well, they really know their player base. Despite it seeming like an effective weapon, I don't want to accidentally use this against a Knight Rider and get all my accounts terminated, so I keep wielding the sword I've had since the start of the game. Finally, it's boss time against Leonine the Misbegotten. Quite right, it's not his fault he thought communism would work, he's just mistaken, or whatever misbegotten means. I'm assuming it means something similar to mistaken. I try to solo him, but make the critical mistake of asking where the Soviet Union went, enraging him to Super Saiyan levels of anger, as I would rather a plantation owner from pre-1865 America use my whip against me than have to go through that ordeal again, so I use dogs this time, dogpiling onto him, and despite a terribly difficult battle, even with the help, I emerge the victor, despite the fact every Dark Souls player is probably spitting on their monitors as we speak in pure disgust, securing his greatsword that looks fairly impractical. With this castle's Vladimir Lenin wannabe dealt with, I fight my way past the melee to Idar, the commander of the castle, delivering his daughter's letter, but he wants to reward me first for getting to him, giving me a twig and some sort of weird inside joke I'm not privy to. After showing him the sword I secured from Lenin, he is finally allowed to leave, since the entire reason he stayed was to make sure nefarious elements and ne'er-do-wells kept their hands off such a prized weapon, reveling in the joy that he will see his loving daughter once oh.
How could this be? My daughter.
I'm not seeing a lot of reveling. Honestly, leaving a young, blind woman alone in the midst of a civil war, I mean, you could have seen this outcome happening. It's like running through the streets of Compton at night with a briefcase of Benjamins falling out, screaming, "Blood's forever!" Ugh, thank God for that dialogue. I wouldn't know what to do without its guiding wisdom. After some more exploring of the deserted island, I find the Night King trying to recreate his army, but with my time spent leveling up, I am a one-man army alone, approaching the levels of a TCLR subscriber as I make quick work of the LARP event. In the catacombs, I find another lever, and lo and behold, another Egyptian pharaoh who can breathe fire, disposing of him and getting the short bus squad as my reward. I find some sort of Harry Potter outpost that requires me to find spirit animals and spirit bend them away. I just swiped at them hard enough to make them dissipate, and as a reward for my toils in diffusing the spell, instead of a fair maiden locked up here, I only find a memory stone. That gives you extra spells. I don't have a single spell, and I'm still maidenless. After traveling down a cave, I come up to a bear that fell on the subscribe button that I somehow managed to obliterate despite the steroids with the help of the goons every evil Disney villain has, and find another church where Melina shows up and reads me a bedtime story, which, riveting as it was, I don't care for as much as this minor Erd tree, another great enemy that I use as toilet paper, since with my determination to do everything Limgrave has to offer, I may be just a wee bit over-leveled for this. But I secure a bubble tier that essentially turns me into bedrock for a brief moment and a passive healing effect, which I select instead. I make it down a cave, finding an army of rats as I empty my fecal content in pure terror, but deciding they are just worthless animals whose mother assuredly closed her eyes while breastfeeding. Imagining them as other babies, I deem it is appropriate and safe for my channel to use the whip in this instance. I get to another Aztec ritual with me as the sacrifice as I'm left to go one-on-one with the ancient hero Zamor, whose powers of ice freeze my testicles solid, toying me by dancing his way to victory after victory as his damn premature ejaculatory fluid is just as cold as it freezes me in my tracks, allowing him to build up ice that'll leave me looking like that dinosaur from Ice Age if I'm not careful, forcing me to use my limited knowledge of Pokemon of fire-beating ice as I show my true Arab self, throwing bombs at him until the towering figure collapses. Yes, the wordplay was intended. It was so worth it though, as Radagon's testy proves itself incredible, giving me a boost in stats at the cost of damage taken, and the boost, it's pretty nice, I can't lie. So I proudly wear Radagon's to show my undying love for his cause and gift of power. I'm walking around till I find the damn house from Hansel and Gretel's story, which serves to duplicate remembrances, which to this day I have no idea what they are. I find my arch nemesis, the elite knight, this time on horseback, as I'm able to whip him into sneaking up to the ballista, who's still going. Man, where'd that guy go? His dick's so small he shouldn't be able to wipe out. Hoping to find a reward, I jump back as the poison gas nearly turned me into a Reddit mod, escaping before I find myself in more deep shit. I get to a village where some rats possess the Sharingan, quickly disposing of them before they can send me to a live interview of Genghis Khan, and finding even more of them in a church. Securing the Flame of Frenzy spam that essentially works as a psychoactive nerve agent that will leave your brain in various stages of decomposition to the point where everything around you is an op that you'll be so crazy that insane asylums will reject you is what I'm saying. I get to the King of the Goblins and send my own goblins after him, dogpiling the Grand Wizard of the KK Say It one more time while I bravely assault it from the backside, using the demi-humans to beat the demi-humans. It's a brilliant strategy as I secure her staff that I will not use in this playthrough. My mission to the Isles essentially done, I revert back to the mainland, trying to tell the were-dog I completed the hit, showing him I can drive by with the rest of them, but he's nowhere to be found. Then I figure out he was gonna help me take on the herky-jerky fighter that turned me into a pencil holder, but, well, I guess I saved him some trouble as he gives me some rarer smithing stones. After profusely sucking my pincer, he says if I find a blacksmith who makes Lizzo look like the pinnacle of healthy eating, then tell him the bear sent me. Now, whether this is a cruel joke or not, since telling people an 8-foot bear sent after you isn't exactly a conversation you would have with your local Starbucks barista, more so one you would tell your rock buddy they let you have in solitary. I cautiously accept his offer and get going. The giant lake in the middle with the supposed dragon is the last place I really need to explore before I can go one-on-one against Godric the Shafted. I explore the ruins on the south side, hoping to find a cave within as I do, but am quickly spooked away as the mod mist makes a return. Cautiously, I visit the second chest and find a glorified switchblade that has its retractor malfunctioned, aka peak weaponry. I see my ops and quickly make the decision to drive by, but the dragon had the same idea, proving himself the superior gangsters, I'm left with the reality of having to go one-on-one against Daenerys' finest, quickly using me to remove the lint from his belly button. After a few more days in a battle locked to the death, I hit him with the runaway like a pussy, take some minor monster tushy, squeeze some juices out of its pussy, return to give his remaining scales a whooping special. I couldn't figure out a worm that rhymed with pussy for the last one, so I just used whooping. I do secure a dragon heart, though I can trade it in for some neat spells we'll get to later. I decide to venture forth, though, into the Limgrave tunnels in a universe where the children's yearnings are met with positive reception. My switchblade is a slicing weapon, one that proves itself ineffective against rock-hard exoskeletons these rockheads have, but I am able to slowly make my way to the Chamber of Secrets, where I learn I can roleplay a dragon if I have a torch in my left hand, as my LARPing gives me the decisive advantage I need to mass-produce the leprosy victims on shirts. With no health pots and no knowledge of what to expect, I decide to return to refuel my lean, but then I remember, no. The entire audience already knows I'm a pussy-ass bitch with my summons. Now with no subscribe button, I'm nothing other than a mob that gives out minimal XP and sometimes a drop to help progress through a collect quest. Enough is enough. I have to prove I can do this without help. Maybe just a little help, and that I'm not completely worthless. Tiny penises unite! Never mind, I place a banana peel, then shove the switchblade up his rectum. It was quite elementary, actually. I continue making my way into the sewers where I expect to find the meth head raid boss until my heart stops in shock as an actual Dark Souls player, one who has spent hours, years getting whipped by the toughest FromSoftware has to offer, shows up ready to turn my lifeless corpse into a part of his harem. But Bullhead shows up and I realize this is just the multiplayer tutorial as we jump the bitch, rob his belongings, and leave before the cops can show. Murkwater Cave is fairly interesting. I run through and get to the boss room as per usual, but after preparing my switchblade in one hand and hemorrhoid cream in the other, no boss. Well, I'll help myself to his belonging.
Stop right there!
He's about as effective as a Twitch streamer's value brought to society, as I beat him until he begs for mercy, and curious, I grant it, benevolent as I am, and he lets me know he's tarnished too. As our shared brotherhood puts all water under the bridge, giving him some of my hemorrhoid cream as I got a little too excited in our bout, and Leaf Patches, who turns into a glorified merchant after a while. Even buying a page of the Kama Sutra off him for practice in case Melina decides 3 inches is indeed enough. There's one last 4chan cave I need to dwell in, getting to a character out of fear and hunger, but even FromSoftware has nothing on that game, good lord. Oh, a pack of wolves can kill you? That's cute. Wait. Getting a banished knight who's so powerful he requires me to put points into mana, but I deem my posse of goblins to be more than sufficient for the coming task. There really isn't much more to do till Castle Stormville, with just one more ghost who's furiously dick-riding the Great Erd Tree before invading a camp that requires me to summon the goblin posse. It was even harder than the Tree Sentinel. On that note, I see some lightning in the distance. Assuredly it's some form of new powerful spell as I add another highlight to my mixtape, and
This is bad!
I swear to God, playing this game is like dealing with the aftermath of playing a Nintendo game with any sort of mod, with their lawyers looking to give me the electric chair for the most minor offense. I let them hit each other in confusion and take out about 50 of the giants without the truly an inspirational performance, feeling my cock throb to below average levels. I go into Gale Tunnel, but it's locked and I have to go to Cadle, the other zone to the east of Limgrave, which I do, taking out a giant and make my way to a Why did I dismount? I didn't click the dismount button. Mother Teresa drives by, proving herself an admirable foe as I proceed to be the prostate inspector in this fight, and my reward for all of this? 2 cookbooks. Wow, I'm sure my culinary career destined to end in doom when Gordon Ramsay calls my cooking inedible was worth going one-on-one with Nanny McPhee. Melina shows up and asks for forgiveness as she's only been testing me this entire time, but my skill with the Digitorums betrays the fact that my cock's apex reaches just a measly 4.2 inches. She says Torrent knew from the start, but she can help me by sending me to the round table, taking me to King Arthur's base camp. I find an evil version of the KKK. Hey, wait. He says he runs this hood, and to know my place, and with my cock reaching at best 4.3 inches of peak capacity, I can't argue with him here. Some dude named Diallo seems nicer and asks for me to look out for a servant who's wandering the streets alone. I jump down a main hall. Okay, I thought we weren't allowed to draw blades here. A tough battle, but his fade was run, swiping his tongue so his bitch ass remembers me every time he tries to answer a question.
Greetings, great champion. I am Fia.
the deathbed companion.
This is nice. It seems slavery is rampant in the Round Table as we have a blacksmith working for free, but he doesn't mind as it keeps him away from her, whoever her is. I skyrocket my twin blade up to +7, increasing its damage by around 60%. As this is now of prime violating size, I'm expecting Nintendo to hit my line at any minute and ask me to deal with the guy caught emulating his new Zelda game he purchased. At a village, the local fisherman who can take a hit thinks he's grown, but I quickly put him in his place. There's a chest, but it requires a stone sword key, so I go to the Round Table to buy one, but find the clan member who says I'm his bottom bitch until I secure a Great Ruin and a dick near or at the national average. I use the rare and expensive key. I swear to God, if there's anything other than an S-tier weapon or anything worse, like Reddit smog, I'm gonna unsubscribe from like daggos. Even better, that's money well spent right there. Value savings. The talisman is doggy doo-doo though. I make my way to Stormbridge where a pumpkinhead is struggling with the side effects of browsing r/sounding, so I quickly put him out of his misery. There's supposed to be a giant pot here that I know for a fact I didn't free. I honestly have no idea. Let me know down below if there's anything I missed, but I have no clue where he could be. There's another camp, but at this point, I'm their kryptonite. I'm the wet hair in the shower drain. I'm the wet paper towel they stepped on barefoot in a public bathroom after taking a shower, necessitating another one. The absolute bane of their existence. In a shack, some dude named Burnahall asks if my faith is strong, despite the fact the Golden Order got gutted like a Ripper victim, and I tell him to suck it. But he still deems it appropriate to teach me the ways of the This shit is ass! You expect me to pay for this? There's a fort up Castle Stormhill guarded by another bloody
That's a lot of damage.
Well, really put the bloody in that one. Fucker was suffering from hemophilia. Ah, come on, I was too late for the tea party, and by the looks of it, it went NSFW. Off the rails for sure. Dude right here looks like he got the Guk 3000. I get to another shack finding a maiden, but she's too traumatized for me to lose my maidenless moniker, as everyone she knows got grafted onto a spider and shafted. She says she'd come, but she's suffering from acute pussy disorder, very serious, and gives me her jellyfish I most definitely will not use, but take anyway to keep hoarding. A fire giant was protecting another cult site, moving in to make sure no group suicides are planned, but I'm unfortunately too late as this Crucible Knight attacks me on sight. There's nothing I could have done to save him, giving me a first Sona as a god damn it, he intentionally did that so he could curse me, didn't he? There's still one more cave for me to explore before Castle No! Ratatouille! These degenerates, I never thought I'd find myself fighting next to a furry, but goddammit, I never thought my cock would be less than 15 inches. This is a strange place indeed. I run everybody's fade made easier with the fact they are in fact furries. After all, my bloodlust knows no bounds, and I summon another furry hunter as me and the goblin. Posse face 2! Exclamation mark bosses, but honestly, I could have soloed easy. I make it to the other side and to the island that was impossible to pass through earlier, which I sacrificed the dragon heart from earlier to learn fireball jutsu. I give the goblin the sewing needle he wanted me to secure, and he remembers his mother using the power of friendship to not shrivel up and die, and now with my stats amplified, furries saved, most of Limgrave done, definitely way over-leveled for the bosses, it's time to take on the resident Big Daddy. I plow through the primary defenses, obliterating some jellyfish on the way and getting to an old hag who begs for my finger. My reputation precedes me, it seems. I continue along the second lines of defense as even a ballista can't stop me. Unlike Borderlands ballistas coming next week, good lord that shit was awful. Finally I move through and there's one last defense I have to get past, but this one is a boss. Sorting out my build order and summoning an NPC before.
Foul tarnished. In search of the Elden Ring. Emboldened by the flame of ambition.
With his condescending remarks leaving me both disrespected and looked down upon, as his refusal to take me seriously can be essentially condensed into,
Whoa, calm down, Jamal. Don't pull out the 9.
Acting like he's in peak shape despite looking like he spends his free time headbutting moose with those antlers. Yeah, I must have done something to his brain since we gangbang him every orifice plugged. Hell, even his antlers were drilled through to create more room for my renowned finger work. As some mustard gas and backstabs made this fight trivial. Destroying him and securing a talisman pouch, I'm not gonna lie, the summonings were probably overkill. I move through the castle finding a slave priest who says while I can open the front gates, it's heavily fortified and I stand no chance. Now normally I tell him to open up and let them come before screaming, "Are you not entertained?" as I mold the grafted ski-on from earlier out of their various body parts, but I'm at best sitting on 5 inches right now, so I need to be careful, and there's more content as well. That was also a point. The only thing that sucks about this castle is these damn birds. They're just annoying, but I make my way past them to the ramparts. I'm actually King Arthur with the short bow, putting everybody and everything face down floating in a lake. I move in and wasn't expecting the Bin Laden special, so they got me there. But second time around, I dodge an explosion somehow, but the gate I need to proceed through is locked. So I go upstairs, open the door.
I've come for your pickle.
Yeah, I might be just a little over-leveled for this. Got the key, though. I make it upstairs, getting to King Arthur's finest, who makes a good practice dummy for my switchblade. There are more birds. Maybe I can skip... Okay, no. I deal with the birds despite every fiber in my being telling me to Alt F4, but at least I can take my anger out on the big black knight. Oh god, I can't move, help! Okay, this time I got it. Third try, my swordfish down in the nether regions finally proves superior as this guy was tougher than Margit. Although to be fair, we just jumped Margit and threw mustard gas at him. Not exactly a fair fight. I continue through the castle, getting to the grafted spider Miss I'm Scared Uwu was evidently worried about from earlier, but I think I found the counter to that. Eventually, I make it out behind the defenses of the front gate from earlier and am able to take the unprepared... Okay, well, never mind. They have all their bases covered, it seems. Now, you might be thinking me a de-evolved ape for attacking a mini-boss with no health, lean, or mana. You would be correct. I get to the Lost Grace before Godric, the villain of our story, but there's one thing we need to do first. I make my way to Love Ahead. Yes, indeed, love is ahead, as this mail-order bride from Morocco admires the warrior who was undoubtedly mid at best. As Nephili Lu... Oh, God. She's French? She hates Godric and his grafting and asks to help me in our struggle, to which I agree since I highly doubt Godric is a German name, meaning she should prove semi-effective at least. I summon her and get to work, the last boss of this video.
Mighty dragon, thou the true-born heir. Lend me thy strength, O kindred. Deliver me unto greater heights. Well. Alone tarnished. Playing as a lord. I command thee kneel! I am the Lord of all that is golden.
Dude barebacks all of us, no condom either, as I now have whatever STDs he acquired when he grafted all those arms onto him. Since I highly doubted he used extensive cell culturing to make sure what he was grafting onto him didn't have some neurological disease or whatever. Second time around, I get him to cut his own arm off like a retard, but... Okay, well, it's safe to say the laws of science don't apply to this world, and at the cost of my mail order combatant, I was able to defeat the grafted menace. Lou, your name will be remembered through all of history. Maybe. I mean, you were I get his ruin and remembrance, getting to the priest, taking out his hundreds of years of slavery on the dude's head. That's almost the end. I do make my way to get the Great Ruin fixed as I commit animal abuse, although he was reaching for a weapon, defeating 3 flaming giants of Oswich, getting to the tower they were protecting, and utilizing Godric's Great Ruin. I come back, commit heresy to a priest I found, and am given the opportunity to learn the strength of great beasts, which we'll get to soon, but first, Lou is still alive. She admits I was the one who took out Godric and didn't hide like a little pussy, trying to learn his attacks from behind, so she gives me a gift she scavenged, assuredly from under the boots of that priest. Now for Godric's runes. Essentially use a rune arc and you gain +5 to every stat category. Until you die, of course, and you have to spend another 4,000 runes, so it's not as good as it sounds. I go back to the man who made me who I am today with a penis firmly sitting at 5.5 inches. The national average now is me and Kel discuss Blade and I decide, man, you know, most people go to Lakes of Liurnia next as it is the next level area, but I'm gonna do something different. I will go to Caelid for part 2. Let's see a preview of next video. Anyways, Liurnia coming out soon-ish, probably. Depends on how well this video does, honestly. And check out some of my other content in the pinned comment. Follow my Twitter, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.